Welcome to another episode of the CS Podcast, presented by the NUC NFL Draft Bible. Visit NFLDraftBible.com. And no, this is not a prospect interview show, although we do bring you the names that you need to know first. And we have been bringing you the names that you need to know first since 2002 here at the NFL Draft Bible. As always, I am your host, Chris Shanafelt. And again, this is not a prospect interview show. Yesterday we had Aaron Lemming of BearReport.com on the program to talk about all things surrounding Chicago Bears and what they've done in free agency. They've been a team that they've been making a lot of headlines over the last 5 days since the start of NFL free agency, and they can continue to do that by signing former Saints, former Patriots, Five Technique in Akeem Hicks. That news just became official about 5 minutes ago. They signed Hicks to a 2-year deal, and as Aaron Lemming and I spoke last night, Lemming thinks this is he feels that this is a pretty big signing. This is going to be a pretty big piece to the Bears defense, adding him there alongside with now second-year player in Eddie Goldman, who was, of course, last year's second-round pick out of Florida State, who went on to have a very solid rookie season. So the Chicago Bears continue to make news, and joining the show now, if you're familiar with the CS Podcast, you've heard him on the program before. He's Jovan Alford. He writes for RealGM and of course, TotalSportsLive.com. And Jovan joins the show now. And Jovan, how's everything going tonight?
Everything's going good, Chris. I'm glad to be back on the podcast, like you said just a few seconds ago. If anybody hasn't been following the CS Podcast, I've been on here multiple times during the regular season, training camp. I've been on a few times now, so I'm always glad to be on talking some football.
And every time we have you on the show, Jovan, we always go around the NFL. We don't just stick with any one team, but most times we always kick things off by talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. You're there in Philadelphia, and like the Chicago Bears, like I was talking about, the Chicago Bears, they've been making a lot of headlines throughout the the start of NFL free agency, and the Philadelphia Eagles have as well. They've made a lot of big signings. Give us an overview of exactly, who was signed to the Philadelphia Eagles. I know one of those the names. I don't have the complete list in front of me right now, but Rodney McLeod, formerly of the St. Louis Rams, was signed to the team, and I forget who it was, but you shared me a tweet, and the tweet said something within the lines of, McLeod has the potential to be the next Earl Thomas or something like that. What are your thoughts on the new group of guys that the Philadelphia Eagles are bringing in for next season?
Yeah, pretty much Howie Roseman has done a fantastic job of, getting rid of the Chip Kelly era. He is erasing any stain from that era, starting off with Monday. Monday was eventful here. Last Monday was eventful here in Philadelphia, seeing how he was able to trade Byron Maxwell and Kiko Alonso, moving them, and Maxwell, who they just signed last year, to a 6-year deal for $63 million. That was huge to move him, and Kiko Alonso moved him as well, even though I don't think Jim Schwartz was there when Alonso was there in Buffalo when he had his great year. But just being able to move those two guys that didn't perform, they underperformed. Sure, let's just say it. They didn't play well this past season. So to move those contracts in the 13th overall pick and get to the 8th overall pick in the draft, that it's huge, especially in this draft. You kind of want to be situated in that top 10 to get either a good offensive lineman, a stud linebacker, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, cornerback. There's a lot of ways you could go with the 8th overall pick. So it's great to move him. And then we thought it was all over with, but then later in the day, later that night, you get the news that coming across Twitter, your phone, ESPN, on TV, NFL Network. You get the news of the Eagles trading DeMarco Murray, and I think it was DeMarco Murray in a 4th-round pick to Tennessee, and Tennessee in exchange gave the Eagles a 4th-round pick. Another great move. Again, another chip move that the Eagles had signed DeMarco to a 5-year, $40 million contract. A lot of money to a running back who, to be honest with you, didn't even play up to standard. Only had 702 rushing yards coming off a year where he had 1,845 and nearly 392 carries in 2014. Have a down year this year. He just didn't blend in with the offense, and there was reports, that Doug Peterson, new Eagles head coach, and Murray, they really didn't talk. So that kind of told me all I need to know, that he wasn't going to be around here in Philadelphia. And now he's going to be with Tennessee, and we'll see what he does in Mike Mularkey's offense. But who knows? That's hit or miss. It's Tennessee. They're not as they're trying to figure things out over there. So they was able to move him, and then we get towards free agency, and it was just the floodgates had opened. Howie Roseman, he opened the wall. Let me say that. If young Howie doesn't trust you, he's going to trade you. He did it on Monday, and he came around this time on Wednesday, and he signed Chase Daniel, which caught a lot of people off guard. I mean, there was always rumors. Even it's funny, there was always rumors even when the season's over that you're thinking, when Peterson got signed, it was like, oh, Chase Daniel could be the guy. Even when Chip was here, everybody was saying, they could get Chase Daniel, and I guess everybody's trying to think he'll capture that Tyrod Taylor magic. We'll see if that happens. But they signed Chase Daniel to a 3-year, $21 million deal, $12 million guaranteed, which had a lot of people kind of shaky because they're saying, well, why would you sign him to that type of deal when you already locked up Bradford for 2 years, $36 million and $26 million guaranteed. For anybody that's outside of Philadelphia, let me tell you, this Sam Bradford deal the Eagles signed him to is pretty much just a 1-year deal. That's all it is. If Sam Bradford messes up next year, I think only like $4 million of his salary is guaranteed in 2017. So it is pretty much a 1-year deal for him, and expect the Eagles to address quarterback in the draft as well. Also in free agency, they were able to sign an offensive guard in Brandon Brooks, big offensive guard from the Houston Texans. I think Pro Football Focus, the past 2 seasons, excluding this season, he was ranked 7th and 8th in offensive guards, and this year took a dip off, but the Houston Texans line took a dip in general if you look at the numbers. So that was a huge signing because the Eagles' offensive guard position was really bad last year, especially after they got rid of Evan Mathis. It was really bad. So they did that, and then on defense, they addressed some key holes. Like you said, they found Leotis McKelvin, 2-year deal. I think that's pretty good. It's a stopgap for the position, so you can address the position in the draft. What they're going to do. You get to get a stopgap guy for that played under Jim Schwartz. He had his best year in 2014 with 4 interceptions. So I think that's great to add. And then, like you said, Rodney McLeod, hard-hitting safety, only 26 years old. Same thing for him and Brandon Brooks, both young guys, 26, 25 years old. That's really good because you signed him to these long-term deal. Brooks, 5-year deal for $40 million. McLeod, 5-year deal, $37 million. Not really huge deals, kind of team-friendly deals. And when you look at the salary breakdown, I think McLeod is only making like $1 million this year, I think, or something like that nature this upcoming season. So it's really a good team-friendly deal. So they signed him. They then signed Nigel Bradham, linebacker who played under Schwartz in Buffalo, another good year, 2-year deal, another good signing. He's going to be helping, especially when Jim Schwartz wants to run that wide 9. You need people that can tackle, and, he's a tackler, and he's good in coverage, so it's great to add him. And then they signed another guy, cornerback Ron Brooks, who also played under Schwartz in Buffalo. He's more of a depth guy. So I think that's all the moves they had. A lot of people still want to see the Eagles address a wide receiver. We'll see. They were interested, according to reports, they were interested in Oakland Raiders wide receiver, what's his name, Andre Holmes. They were interested in him, so we'll see where that goes. As Rod Streeter got picked up a couple of days ago by the Chiefs. So we'll see what happens, but so far so good. Free agency was really good. The Eagles made some solid, smart moves and team-friendly deals that helps the salary cap going forward. Because I still think they have about $17 million under the cap. Oh, yeah, and they also traded Mark Sanchez. How can I forget about that? They traded Mark Sanchez to the Denver Broncos. So, yeah, so free agency has been pretty eventful for the Eagles.
Yeah, to say the least. And, I mean, you covered it all right there. I mean, for those who need, for those who need information on the Philadelphia Eagles or NFL fans in general, give this guy a follow on Twitter at Jovan10. I mean, you really did just cover it all from top to bottom. And I don't know how I started the show off with the Philadelphia Eagles and didn't even bring up the trades. That was something you brought up on yourself, Jovan, and I don't know how I didn't even touch on it. But yeah, I mean, not only is DeMarco Murray out, he's on to Tennessee. Also, Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell, who both struggled last season. I mean, I'll just say flat out struggled. They as you said, they did not live up to their expectations. They're also out and they're on their way to Miami. I mean, these were. I mean, DeMarco Murray. I could kind of see how a team like Tennessee could be interested in them. I mean, they recently re-signed Antonio Andrews, who had his moments last year, but Antonio Andrews or DeMarco Murray. I'm not even the biggest DeMarco Murray fan, but give me DeMarco Murray any day. So that one didn't surprise me as much. It was clear that he wanted to be out of Philadelphia. I mean, it seemed like he never really wanted to be there, besides the fact that he had an opportunity to play the Dallas Cowboys 2 times a year. Didn't really fit in with the scheme last year under Chip Kelly. And then from there, it just wasn't a bad. It just wasn't a good fit from the beginning. But to be able to trade Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell, and especially that contract that carries on with Byron Maxwell. I mean, what was the reaction out there in Philadelphia, and how beloved is how beloved is Howie Roseman, with the Philadelphia Eagles fans? I gotta think he's probably the most loved guy there in Philadelphia. After this news, especially starting in the off season, or starting at the end of the regular season, firing Chip Kelly. I guess maybe that was more of a Jeffrey Lurie decision. I'm not exactly sure, but anyways, I mean, just being able to do what he did, not only in free agency, bringing in some of these veterans to help this team out. I mean, it looks as if they're a better team today than they were last week. But to be able to trade some of these guys that simply just didn't seem to fit in with the Philadelphia Eagles, like a Kiko Alonso, Byron Maxwell, and a DeMarco Murray. I mean, again, how much, what's the reaction like out there in Philadelphia after these moves were made?
Well, I got to tell you, when people heard the trade that when it was speculated, was being, speculated on Twitter, I think I talked to you on Monday when it was happening, when I couldn't believe it. And a lot of fans couldn't believe it either, because it's just like, whoa, like you actually found, I hate to call it the Dolphins a sucker, but you found a team to take on Byron Maxwell's contract. Like, you found a team to do that, and you kind of expected that they were going to be in the market for a quarterback after they were going to release, Pro Bowler cornerback Brent Grimes. It wasn't his fault that he got released. So that's a whole different podcast for a whole other different day. Howie Roseman, it was just like he found a team that was in need of something and said, "Here, we'll take Byron Maxwell and Kiko." And, Miami's trying to start something new down there with Adam Gates, and probably like, they probably see that this is a chance to add 2 guys who can be playmakers in our defense, and let's take them on. So that's what they were probably thinking. But for Eagles, on the Eagles standpoint, I thought it was a fantastic move. Eagles fans love it.
And they were able to swap out first-round draft picks. Isn't that right?
Exactly.
I mean, not only were they able to get these contracts off the books, but they were also able to get a higher pick in the first round. I mean, I don't know how Howie Roseman was able to do it.
Exactly. I don't even think you can duplicate this on Madden if you tried. Like, let's just say that you can't even duplicate this on Madden. And the way that he did, like you said, to get rid of Kiko Alonso, who was still on his rookie deal, so it's not that bad. But Maxwell's $63 million contract, and then Johnson moved to 13th pick overall to get up to 8th. That's a pretty damn good move. That shows me that you feel like we can trade these 2 guys and 13, and you're saying we can get an impact guy at 8. Like, this impact guy at 8 is going to be better than what Byron Maxwell and Kiko Alonso can give me this year and down the road. So I think it's a very good move. Fans were excited. You just see on Facebook and Twitter, like, yeah, Howie did it. You would think, like, Howie got rid of all the chip. And, for anybody that listens to, Future and stuff like that, or Kanye West, It's the Life of Pablo, when the song opened up and he was like, if Young Metro don't trust you, and I was just like on Twitter, on Facebook, I was like, if Young Howie don't trust you, he's going to trade you, because that's what happened. Howie did his thing, and you got to give him a great round of applause for that, because what he did was, shed salary, and with Howie Roseman, a lot of people get on him for talent evaluations when it comes to the draft, which is warranted, but the way he manages the cap, you want a GM that know how to manage your cap, because you don't want to be in situations where you're like the New York Jets and you're kind of trying to make space for players. You want to be going into free agency having a lot of money and be able to maneuver to compete for some not the top tier, but the second tier players in free agency. So Howie Roseman, I think, did an excellent job when it came to free agency this year.
And you touched on it a little bit earlier, Jovan. Sam Bradford was signed to a contract extension. You know, when you break it down, it's really like a one-year deal. But they were also able to sign Chase Daniel. You know, he's been looked at as one of the league's top backup quarterbacks for quite a few years now, from his time in New Orleans and then the 2 years he spent in Kansas City. Under Doug Peterson, of course, very familiar with the offensive system he'll be bringing along to Philadelphia. You know, is there even going to be a quarterback competition in Philadelphia? I mean, there are a lot that believe that Chase Daniel, you know, he deserves a shot, and is Sam Bradford really the guy in Philadelphia? Sure, he got the contract extension, but like you said, this is a new coaching staff, and obviously the new coaching staff brought along one of their guys. I mean, is this should we expect a legit quarterback competition, or is this Sam Bradford's job week one of the regular season, and then from there we'll see what happens?
I gotta think it's going to be a quarterback competition, Chris. Like you said, Sam Bradford's deal is a one-year deal, but you know, to sign a backup quarterback for 3 years, $21 million with $12 million guaranteed, that doesn't scream backup to me per se. That screams like I'm here to compete. Unless you're Tyrod Taylor and you get signed to a 3-year, $3 million deal, you know, that's just luck for Buffalo. And you turn, you know, you catch lightning in a bottle. And I'm glad they did. You know, I think that's the same way how Eagles fans, well, not how Eagles fans, that's the same way how I view the Chase Daniel signing, because I wrote on TotalSportsLive.com back in January. I wrote a story about should the Eagles consider Chase Daniel, and you know, I mentioned Tyrod Taylor and the kind of deal he got, and I think I said the same thing of Daniel should probably get a 3-year deal, $10 million. I gotta go check the story because I know I said something about contract numbers, and I could be on to something here, but I think I said the same thing. You know, they caught lightning in the bottle. I think the Eagles can do the same thing too. Daniels, he's older. I think he's 30 years old, and I gotta think it's quarterback competition. You gotta compete. You gotta have somebody that's gonna push him. No disrespect. Sam Bradford, Mark Sanchez, rookie quarterback, ain't gonna push Sam Bradford, but Sam Bradford, rookie quarterback, and possibly a rookie quarterback at 8, and Chase Daniel with Chase Daniel's offensive coordinator as head coach, that's going to push him in to compete. And I was listening to a radio station here, a Philly sports radio station here, and an analyst, an insider was on the radio on Friday, and he said, you know, if Sam Bradford, you know, by the third week of the preseason isn't playing well, he said he wouldn't be surprised if you see, you know, Chase Daniel getting reps with the first team and, you know, pushing for that starting job, because you got to think, Chase Daniel's been a backup all his life. Backs up Drew Brees, backs up Alex Smith. He's trying to. You got to think that he's got that competitive fire in him, that he wants to compete for that starting job. So I think it's going to be a quarterback competition, because it's only going to make Sam Bradford better. And if you're Sam Bradford, you want that. You need that competition, especially if you want a new deal going into 2017 and beyond. Not only to prove it to the Eagles, but to prove to the NFL that you can still be a quality quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even if, you know, let's say Sam Bradford, you know, it would be odd, but let's say he's handed the starting job and he is the week one starter, and, you know, let's say he's playing, you know, just average, nothing special, but he's doing enough to retain the starting quarterback job. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, unfortunately, history tells us Chase Daniel will be the starting quarterback at some point, because Sam Bradford just won't be able to stay healthy. So, you know, you do have to bring in a backup quarterback that you feel confident in, and I don't think there's anybody better for this new Philadelphia Eagles staff than Chase Daniel, and I think all signs point to that. And seeing as that 3-year deal that they signed Daniel to, and obviously the Chase Daniel, he's pretty active on social media. He made it pretty certain that he's excited to get down there in Philadelphia. And like you said, he's been a career backup coming out of Missouri. I believe he was a undrafted free agent, but you know, spent some time behind Drew Brees, spent some time behind Alex Smith. You know, he was never really even competing for a starting job. Again, you know, one of the league's top backup quarterbacks But now it looks like this is his best opportunity that he's had in his career to compete for a starting job, and you got to think he'll do just that. Again, we're talking with Jovan Alford of TotalSportsLive.com. He also writes for RealGM. Give him a follow on Twitter at Jovan10 here on the CS podcast presented by the NUC NFL Draft Bible. And looking a little bit more around the league, I mean, the contract that has probably gotten, at least off the top of my head, the most backlash is the Houston Texans signing Brock Osweiler to that 4-year, I believe, $72 million contract there in Houston. That was something that really surprised me. I mean, I wasn't too surprised to see him leave Denver, although I do think that was the best place for him to succeed, not only because he's familiar with the offense, but he's familiar with the teammates surrounding him. But you're also coming off of a Super Bowl win. You would want to think that you would want to stay there, even if you're going to take a little bit less money. But he decided that he wanted to cash out, and he's running a pretty decent Houston Texans team. I mean, this is a team that was in the playoffs last season, under Brian Hoyer being the starting quarterback. But what was your reaction when you seen the type of contract that Houston handed Brock Osweiler? And are you surprised that Osweiler won't be the Broncos quarterback next season?
I'm really not surprised, and I was thinking about this the night before free agency, and I was scrolling my Twitter timeline, and I was going to sit there and tweet. I wouldn't be surprised if Brock Osweiler ends up in Houston and RG3 ends up in Denver. I was going to tweet that, but obviously that tweet never came to fruition. I wish I did, but I'm not surprised. I'm for real. I'm not surprised that he ended up in Houston just because Houston needed a quarterback. And they were either going to go RG3. You would probably think RG would have to be in the competition for it since he's a Texas native, or Brock Osweiler, or he was going to draft a quarterback. But you don't want to throw a rookie in the fire like that, especially with a team that has talent like Houston does on both sides of the ball. You don't want to throw a Christian Hackenberg in that situation if he gets drafted to Houston.
What happened to the legend of Tom Savage? I mean, that guy, according to Gil Brandt, was supposed to be, a first, second round pick. And this guy, here he is, still the third, now probably the fourth string quarterback there on the Houston Texans roster. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Jovan. Go ahead.
Hey man. I don't even know what happened with Tom Savage. Like you said, a lot of people I remember that draft. A lot of people were shocked that he slid so far, but let's keep it real. I think he was at Rutgers, and yes, he was at Rutgers initially. He didn't transfer to Pitt, so he didn't put up eye-popping numbers at either place. But like you said, what happened to Tom Savage? They're not going to put him in consideration, for this position. So it tells you a lot about the lack of the position of where he was at. And I'm not surprised because Osweiler, the NFL is like a league where it's like, what have you done for me lately? And free agency tells you if you've done well lately, you will get paid, and you'll get paid the big bucks. I mean, is it far-fetched that Osweiler got $72 million over 4 years? Yeah, it's $18 million per year. But come on, Sam Bradford got 2 years, $36. That's $18 million a year. So Osweiler probably looking at it, and his agent probably looking at it. If Sam Bradford can get $18 million per year, and he only played 13 games, and he had 19 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. He was probably thinking I can get about the same amount of money as well. So I'm not surprised. I mean, Matt Flynn was surprised, but come on, Matt Flynn shouldn't be surprised. How dare he disrespect and say that he was and say those things about Brock Osweiler getting that contract? Can we not talk about the money Matt Flynn stole from the Oakland Raiders and the Seattle Seahawks? Come on now, let's not even go there. And he cashed out too off of a 400-yard plus game and 6 touchdowns, I think. So come on, Matt. But I'm not surprised about Osweiler. I hope he does well. I mean, I wrote for RealGM my top 10 free agents of 2016. I had Osweiler at number 10. And I said SpotTrack have Osweiler calculated market value at 4 years, $41 million. And I said, if you're the Broncos, if you can get him at that price, you sign him. You sign him automatically. You get him at that price, you sign him. But I guess, Houston came with the bigger bucks, and like you said, you can't blame a quarterback. You can't blame any of these players for cashing out because this might be the only time in their career they actually cash out. Now, for Osweiler, there's just going to be a lot of pressure on him. For a guy that only played in 7 games this year, it's going to be a lot of pressure on him to get the job done. Yep. Luckily, he's in a division like the AFC South, where like the NFC East, you really only need 8 or 9 wins to win the division.
Right. I mean, you don't know what the Indianapolis Colts are going to do. I mean, the Tennessee Titans, we don't know when they're going to be a team to fear. I mean, their future no doubt looks bright under Marcus Mariota and now DeMarco Murray and some of the pieces that they're starting to surround Mariota with. You don't know when they're going to start catching fire, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, they may have won the NFL free agency this year, as we know, at least here in Chicago. You don't win games though when you or all the time you don't win games when you win free agency. Philadelphia knows that very well also with the Dream Team quite a few years ago. Yeah, I mean the AFC South slowly but surely they do look like a division that seems to be on the rise, to say the least. And yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, Brock Osweiler, only 7 starts in his career, all coming this past season, and there we have it. He's making about $10 million per start from this past season. Now with the Houston Texans, that's unbelievable. But anyways, and I've seen a report from one of the guys over that covers the Denver Broncos in Denver, obviously, that said that Brock Osweiler pretty much made his decision that he was going to be leaving Denver when he was benched. I believe it was against maybe it was Kansas City. I could be wrong, but whenever he was benched for Peyton Manning, when Peyton Manning came back and got the starting job back. Right, so it sounds as if that's when Brock Osweiler made his decision that he was going to be leaving Denver. Super Bowl ring or not, it sounded as if he had made his mind before the playoffs. So there's that. Big contract for Brock Osweiler. And let's stay in Houston, Jovan, and he has a pretty good running back that he'll be handing the ball off to as well in Lamar Miller. I really thought that I really thought that Lamar Miller was possibly going to be landing in Dallas. I thought that would have been the perfect match, behind that offensive line. Thought it was a match made in heaven right there. But seeing him land in Houston, I mean, we've seen the success that Arian Foster has had over the last few years. He was obviously released. Lamar Miller comes in. Two totally different running backs, but I think Lamar Miller could have success there in Houston. And honestly, I don't think that offense is going to be relying on Brock Osweiler as much as they will be relying on a guy like Lamar Houston in their running game.
No, I totally agree with you. I love the pickup of Lamar Miller. I think he was only signed to a 4-year, $26 million deal. That's really good. What is not like breaking the bank, DeMarco Murray style, 5 years, $40 million. 4 years, 26. That's really good for a guy who wants to be that feature back. He wants to be that bell cow for the Texans. And I mean, the Texans lost, like I said, they lost Brandon Brooks on their offensive line, but then they went right back and signed Jeff Allen, the former Kansas City Chiefs offensive guard. They signed him so to solidify the offensive line. And I definitely think, he's going to, like you said, they're going to lean on him a lot this year. But I think he'll definitely be more effective as a running back than Arian Foster, because let's keep it real. I mean, once Foster went down, it really put pressure on, Brian Hoyer to throw the ball a lot, and that's never a situation you want to put a quarterback like Brian Hoyer in. It's the same situation you don't want to put Brock Osweiler in as a first-year starter. No, seriously, you don't want to do that. I mean, you don't want to be in the offense like what the Bears did with Jimmy Clausen against Seattle. You just don't want to pound the rock all the time, don't throw type of offense. But the same thing with Osweiler. He's going to be a first-year starter, so you want to kind of lessen his load. And Lamar Miller, unlike other running backs, he seems like he has a yearn that he really wants the ball. And that was the gripe in Miami, that he didn't run the ball, that they didn't, players thought that he didn't, get the ball enough. And, he now gets to be that guy, and now Miami, Jay Ajayi looks like he's probably going to be that guy. So both guys, are happy. Lamar Miller, I expect big things from him. I think he's going to be good. He also brings an element like Arian Foster. I think catching the ball at the backfield. I think Lamar Miller's going to bring that aspect too to the Houston Texans. So I like the sound of Lamar Miller. You always want to have your quarterback and running back combo set up nicely. They do. They got DeAndre Hopkins on the outside. So I really like what they got there. And Houston is just putting it all together, and Bill O'Brien working his magic.
Yeah, they're definitely putting together a very strong team. Again, a team that will be contending for the AFC South Championship once again, as they did win it this past season. Who knows? Maybe the Indianapolis Colts will strike fire. I mean, this was certainly an upsetting season for them. I don't think many people at all seen the type of year that they had coming at all. Again, unhealthy Andrew Luck, obviously, for most of the year, but Matt Hasselbeck was able to step in, and he did a pretty nice job for a while, but that awful offensive line caught up to them, and their age really showed as the season went on. The Indianapolis Colts, that is. So as I keep on talking about the teams in the AFC South, man, that looks to be a division that'll really step their game up this season. A lot of young talent. Obviously Blake Bortles there in Jacksonville, Marcus Mariota in Tennessee, and now you got Brock Osweiler there in Houston with some really nice firepower with now Lamar Miller in the backfield, one of the top wide receivers, and DeAndre Hopkins, and then obviously on the defensive side of the ball, you of course got J.J. Watt. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out of the AFC South next season. Again, Houston will be a team that'll, at least as of right now, you got to think that they may even be the favorite to win that division. I mean, the Indianapolis Colts, again, a team up there in age and a team that is also losing some pieces. They lost Kobe Fleener, who wasn't a huge piece to that offense, but was one of Andrew Luck's favorite targets. I mean, this is a guy that Luck was very familiar with heading into Indianapolis. Obviously, they were teammates there at Stanford. And Kobe Fleener leads the Colts to sign the contract with the New Orleans Saints. And this is something that you and I chatted about. I mean, why did the Saints decide to pay a guy like Kobe Fleener, obviously a tight end? They signed him to a 5-year, $36 million deal. Pretty decent contract for a guy like Fleener, to say the least. Why do they pay a guy like that, but not a guy of their own, and a guy that was a much better player in Jimmy Graham just last year? They decide to trade him to the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I know that Jimmy Graham would have been asking for a much bigger contract, at least money-wise. He would have, he would have wanted more than $36 million over 5 years. But that's the contract I think you have to make. But anyways, I know that's last year, this is this year. But I just found it funny that the Colts decided to spend $36 million on a tight end. I mean, when I seen that, I definitely laughed. What was your reaction when you seen Fleener heading to New Orleans?
I was kind of shocked, but then I had to think about it. Like, they just lost Ben Watson to the Ravens. You know, the Ravens, they just love stockpiling tight ends. I swear they just love stockpiling those guys, but don't address the wide receiver position. But again, whole different story for another day. The Saints, the Saints, they wanted to replace Watson with their age with a younger talent, and to strike big on Kobe Fleener is huge. I think he's going to do well in that vertical offense. I think he's going to play well. But like you said, why not give Jimmy Graham that same money? And I think why he didn't give Jimmy Graham that money, because Jimmy Graham would want wide receiver money. We remember he wasn't declaring himself as like
that guy
tight
wide
end.
receiver money then.
Right, exactly. You do, because he's talented. I mean, nobody that year, his last year in New Orleans, nobody was stopping Jimmy Graham on the fade route. Nobody would have stopped him. Just throw it up in the end zone, and he was just catching like an alley-oop. It was too easy. But like you said, you give him wide receiver money, and New Orleans was just like, I don't think so. I'm not feeling giving him wide receiver money. Tight end money we could do, but Jimmy's probably just like, I don't want tight end money. I'm a pass catcher. Because remember we had that whole debate last summer where tight ends were like starting to declare themselves on Twitter like pass catchers instead of tight ends. I think Jordan Cameron did the same thing. He declared himself a pass catcher and not a tight end because, they want to get paid more, and that's understandable because the tight end is now becoming a more diversified position. You got your inlines, and you got your, inline tight ends who are just used for blocking. You got your flex tight ends who are, guys that are kind of like pseudo wide receivers. they can play wide out. You can split them out wide and they can do their thing. So I was kind of shocked when I saw Fleener going there because I always had a thought that Fleener would possibly – my thought was that Indianapolis would keep Fleener more than they would keep Dwayne Allen, and because Dwayne Allen didn't have so much of a breakout year, didn't have such of a big year this year, but I also know that he's more there for his blocking as well. He brings both dynamics. Kobe Fleener, not much. So I'm shocked that he's in New Orleans, but I think he can possibly rejuvenate his young career in New Orleans, just getting vertical.
Right, absolutely. I totally agree with you, and obviously not to take anything away from Andrew Luck because he is still probably the best young quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
And obviously future looks brighter than ever with Andrew Luck, but being able to work with a quarterback like Drew Brees, who has success, obviously I'm not saying Kobe Fleener will be the next Jimmy Graham, but Drew Brees knows how to target his tight ends. He knows how to make them into playmakers. I mean, what we've seen from Ben Watson this past season and over the last couple of seasons, even when Jimmy Graham was there in New Orleans, Ben Watson was also a guy that was also making some noise in the receiving game. So, yeah, maybe this will be a little jump start to Kobe Fleener's career there in New Orleans. Sounds really excited. He thought that New Orleans really wanted him there, while Indianapolis seemed to not show too much interest. And one more signing that I want to focus on, and we're definitely going to have to do this again very soon because I do also want to get to the NFL draft with you as well. But there's so many signings that we could touch on, so it's pretty much like pulling them out of a hat right here. But we got to focus on this on the New York Jets. What are they going to do with their quarterbacks? And I mean, obviously, a big year for Ryan Fitzpatrick, a career year for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, he sets the New York Jets. He sets their touchdown record in the season. A great year. Obviously, we know the numbers that Brandon Marshall was able to put up. He also broke wide receiver numbers. But anyway, huge year for Ryan Fitzpatrick. They had double-digit wins this season. It all signs pointed to them making the playoffs. But they were one of those teams that were left out of the playoff push. Unfortunately, it's crazy to think that Brandon Marshall has yet to make an appearance in the NFL playoffs. But that's the way it is. Obviously, not very easy to make a playoff push. But anyways, Ryan Fitzpatrick, career year, and it seems like they're pretty far apart. The Jets and Fitzpatrick are on a contract, and RG3 has already made a couple of visits with the New York Jets, and it sounds like the interest is real in RG3 and the Jets. All in all, what do you predict to happen? Do the Jets need to sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, or could they kind of wing it and bring in a young guy like RG3? And talking about jump-starting the careers in Fleener in New Orleans, can this be a jump start to RG3's career if he lands in a spot like New York with the Jets? With the team that already has a pretty solid defense, one of the league's top. And then obviously some really great surrounding pieces as well in Brandon Marshall. Obviously, they did some work in free agency as well, bringing in Matt Forte. A pretty solid offense and defense as well. I mean, could this be a jump start to RG3's career if he lands in with the Jets?
No, you make a great point. I don't know what's going to happen to Ryan Fitzpatrick. You're just reading so many things. You're reading that his agent and him are asking for too much. But if you think about it, he had a career year, got the Jets to a 10-6 record, had 33 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. You call him Ryan Fitz Magic because he was just magical in the field this year. Yeah, despite his age, he's 33. He's not. You don't want to give him that big money, but at the same time, I mean, you gotta pay the man. Somebody close to me, said, Fitz is he's a great leader and he's a good dude, and that's the type of quarterback that I want on my roster. And he's already got rapport with the guys, the receivers there. I mean, Brandon Marshall, I think over Super Bowl, it was Super Bowl week when they was asking about Colin Kaepernick and stuff like that, and Marshall went to bat for Fitz. Like, I want him back as my quarterback. I want him leading this team. So I think the Jets got to do something to make it work. Now, if he's asking for $18 million, I got to think you got to give it to him because we already talked about two quarterbacks again, $18 million per year as it is, and Sam Bradford, 2 years, $36 million, and Brock Osweiler, $72 million. So I mean, you got to pay if that's the going rate. You got to pay him that much. You got to. Because he played, let's keep it real, he played better than both Bradford and Osweiler combined. He played better than them combined. So if they don't get him, then I'm going to feel sorry for him because, to be honest with you, if they don't snatch him up, I mean, where else could he go? Denver, maybe. That's a possibility. San Francisco, L.A. I mean, a Rams Fitzpatrick union could happen. He'd be better than Nick Foles, I'll say that much. In Case Keenum, he'll be better than those two. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does, and if he moves on and he goes somewhere else, then the Jets are left with a hole. Do you go with Geno? Do you go with Bryce Petty, excuse me? No, you're going to probably go to RG3 because it seems like RG3 is certainly enjoying his time in the Great Big Apple, and what a way with him to rejuvenate his career, like you said, like Fleener, he will rejuvenate his career in the Big Apple, which is no joke. I mean, can RG3 deal with the New York media? That's going to be the true test if he is able to get there. And I think I was saying this to someone, or I was thinking this, or I was thinking this thought about RG3. I said the same way how Rex Ryan used Tyrod Taylor this year, I think Todd Bowles has to use the same way with RG3, which is, don't have him run too much, only run when you need to, but develop his game as a pocket passer, like how Rex Ryan had with Tyrod Taylor, but also have a strong running game behind him. And there is no reason why RG3, if he goes in New York, can be successful. There's no reason why he can't be successful there. He's going to have a running back and Matt Forte, who's going to help him running the ball and catching the ball at the backfield. He has two great wide receivers, and what's his name, and Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. He's going to have a tight end in Jason Morrow, who is still learning. He's still young. Got to give him a chance to see what he does there. So he has talent on offense. And then on defense, he got a great defense. He's got Revis Island on the other side, Buster Screen, Leonard Williams, Sheldon Richardson, if he can get his act together, Muhammad Wilkerson. I mean, they're talented on both sides of the ball, and there was no reason why RG3 couldn't succeed there. But it's just if they believe, I think when it comes down to RG3, is going to be, does the Jets believe in him to be their guy? And to be honest with you, RG3 could be a great, this would be crazy for me to say, but he could be a great mentor for a guy like Geno Smith and Bryce Petty. All seriousness, because Geno went through the same kind of struggles RG3 did. Not the same caliber of player, but the same type of struggles. You can learn something. And you know what? We talk about quarterback competition in Philly. If RG3 comes there, who says we can't have quarterback competition in New York between Geno, Bryce Petty, and RG3? I think it would be interesting to see him in New York green, don't get me wrong, but hey, that would be something interesting to see. We already got Eli in New York, but RG3 and Eli in the same city with Odell Beckham Jr.? That's something to talk about on an everyday basis.
Yeah, it would be. And you know what? You talk about, the New York media and, how they would react to RG3 landing there with the Jets. And it brings me back to the whole Tim Tebow and Mark Sanchez quarterback competition, and how much that was covered. I mean that was that got really annoying, and I could see that becoming the same way with if RG3 lands there in New York with the Jets, if they decide to part ways and not re-sign Fitzpatrick. Go ahead.
But here's the difference though. RG3 can actually play quarterback. Tim Tebow can't play quarterback. That's the difference. Huge difference right there.
Well, hey man, I don't know. I mean, the media seem to love them some Johnny Manziel as well, and I don't know.
Oh, goodness.
You know what? I'm gonna leave it right there. You guys are listening to the CS podcast. I'm Chris Shanafelt. We're with Jovan Alford of RealGM and Total Sports Live. As always, the CS podcast is presented by the NUC NFL Draft Bible. We are just over a month away, I believe about 6 weeks away from the 2016 NFL Draft. It will be held here in Chicago once again. Be sure to subscribe and sign in at NFLDraftBible.com. Go ahead, use the promo code RIC 2015. Follow on Twitter at NFL Draft Bible. And you know what? Let's make the transition right there, Jovan. Let's talk a little bit about the NFL draft before I let you go. A couple of weeks removed from the NFL Combine, and some big time performances. But focusing on the wide receivers, there weren't many. You look at the wide receivers and you think 40 time. That's probably going to be the first thing you look at. At least for me, it's always 40 time and vert. How high could they jump? And really, there weren't many numbers that really stuck out. I mean, at least focusing on the 40 time at first. Yeah, Will Fuller a 4.32. But after that, I mean, a lot of the guys, and I think Mike Mayock even said it on the broadcast. I mean, this is just a slower wide receiver class than what we're used to, at least over the last few years. Vert-wise, you had a few guys impressed. I mean, Josh Doctson led the way along with Sterling Shepard, both with 41-inch verticals. That obviously is above average, to say the least. 41-inch vertical, very impressive. Corey Coleman was ranked second, 40.5-inch vertical. So you had some guys stand out there with the vert. But looking at the 40-yard dash, obviously the guys that are ranked 1 and 2 in this year's wide receiver class by most, Laquan Treadwell of Ole Miss and Corey Coleman of Baylor, they both decided to sit out of the 40-yard dash for the NFL Combine, wait till their pro day. Does the slower, or what they say slower, wide receiver class concern you at all, or do you look at some of the other activities that these guys participate in and see how they perform in those activities?
Man, I'll tell you this. I don't have no problem with guys having a slow 40 time because, I mean, that was the big knock on Laquan Treadwell. A lot of guys say, Treadwell, he doesn't look like he can run a 4.4, 4.5. But that doesn't matter to me what he can do in a sprint. I mean, just watch the game film and see what he does. Dude has some serious game speed. There's a difference between track speed and game speed. I mean, I don't even think, Alshon Jeffrey runs a 4.4, you know what I'm saying? But his game speed is, it's something to marvel with his stride, And I think people forget about that because Treadwell doesn't have the 40 speed. You got to look at the game speed, look at his stride and how he does. I mean, I challenge anybody to go watch what he did to Oklahoma State in the Sugar Bowl. You don't need no 40 time for that. Just look what he did to that team on turf. It was a sight to see, So I think slower 40 times, yeah. It has a point. I think for the guys who are like known as speedy guys, like the Will Fullers, like you want to see them, you like put up the 4.3s, because that validates what you see and what you know about them. If they don't go 4.3, then you're kind of like, oh, I don't know, is he really good? Is he what's the name? I think a lot of people, they really wanted to see, what Treadwell and what Corey Coleman can do in the 40, but they just pull it down and say, no, we'll just wait till what's the name. I'm a big Corey Coleman fan. Number one in the Corey Coleman fan club right here. I was a big supporter of his. I was a big supporter of his senior season of the Heisman and trying to get him some Heisman attention, but it just didn't happen this year. I like his game too, but I think slower 40 times. I think that shouldn't matter unless a wide receiver totally bombs out and goes like 4.6. Then that's a really concern. But I still think if you're between a 4.3 and a 4.5, you really can't go wrong. Will that change the definition of what the kind of wide receiver you are? Maybe if you're 4.5, the team probably sees you now as a slot wide receiver, which is okay because we're seeing guys, who, like, for example, I'll say Jordan Matthews of the Eagles. He's not a fast guy, but we see what he has done in his first 2 years. Yes, in Chip Kelly's vanilla Mickey Mouse offense, but hey, you see what he's done in that offense. He's been pretty productive the past 2 years. This season, he just missed out on 1,000 yards. So you see guys like him who aren't, fast guys, and they're still able to dominate. So I think I'm not concerned if guys, have slower 40 times. It would be concerning if a guy like Will Fuller, for example, had like a 4.4 time or something of that nature. Then I'll be concerned, but I'm not really concerned about that.
And you know what, from wide receivers to quarterbacks, probably should have started with the quarterbacks, but well, we're still getting to them. we all know the Carson Wentz, the hype is real surrounding the FCS quarterback. The oh man, and we I mean, for those who listen to the show religiously or is a fan of the Total Sports Live podcast, you guys are obviously familiar with my take, familiar with Jovan's take. Just don't know if this is, first off, not really a strong quarterback class in the first place, and I think when you have a guy like Carson Wentz being the ranked as the number one quarterback by a number of different websites, a number of different publications, I think that says a lot, and I don't think we've really ever seen, at least not from what I could remember, a FCS quarterback being the clear-cut favorite like Carson Wentz is now. I mean, there are some, you can make arguments about, Jared Goff and, the Paxton Lynch hype has kind of died down a little bit. But as of right now, it seems like Carson Wentz is the clear-cut favorite in this year's draft, in terms of quarterback. Now, my take, I still think I would go Jared Goff. But all in all, there isn't a quarterback in this year's draft where I'd say this is going to be a franchise player, where we were able to say that last year with not only Jameis Winston but Marcus Mariota, or a few years ago with Andrew Luck. We just they had it at the time, and there's none of these quarterbacks, at least in my opinion, have it as of right now. Not saying that 3-4 years down the road they can't turn into a franchise quarterback. I mean, that's what this is all about. I mean, you're not going to be right all the time, but right now that Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Paxton Lynch, they seem to be the three favorites. Christian Hackenberg. I mean, none of these guys could step in day one and be a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's going to take some time. What's your take on the overall class of the quarterbacks in the 2016 draft class, Jovan? And is Carson Wentz number one on your board? I mean, tell the people how you feel about the North Dakota State Bison.
Well, let me just say this first, and anybody listening to that is going to listen to this podcast. You can tweet me, you can quote me when I say this. I'm saying it now. You can lock me in, you can vault it, you can do whatever. Stone cold lock. you can repeat what I just said here, what I'm about to say. If you take Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, and Paxton Lynch, and if you take those three guys and you put them into last year's quarterback class, none of those guys will be first or second round picks. I guarantee you that. I'll tell you what, a Carson Wentz would be a third round pick in last year's class. I'm serious. He would be in the category with the Garrett Graysons, the Sean Mannions, and the Bryce Petty's, third and fourth round. No disrespect, it's the truth. Goff, I could see sliding in the second round in last year's class, and Paxton Lynch, third round guy. He has height, but it's like Alford. Alford was a late second round pick. Same thing I could see with Paxton Lynch. And last year's class, and you want to go back to 2014 when we had Bortles, Bridgewater, Carr, Manziel, first and early second round. I still see the same thing. I see a Carson Wentz in the third round. I see a Goff in the third round. I see a Paxton Lynch in the third round. So, like you said, when it comes to this year's class, I think it's a weak class. I think it's a very weak class. I think because we're in the NFL where we have, guys that are – we're in a league where it's quarterback needy. Every year, Chris, is like we see a team needing a starting quarterback, because that's just the way that's just the law of the land, it seems like, and the law of averages. We always need a starting quarterback. And I think these three guys, aren't starters. And for, Carson Wentz to be number one in this class, I don't think he's the number one quarterback in this class. I think Jared Goff is the number one quarterback in this class. And part of it is because of competition. There's no disrespect to the guys that played the FCS level. But Carson Wentz is no, if we want to be serious, Carson Wentz is no Joe Flacco. Flacco played at the FCS level at Delaware, but he's no Joe Flacco. People go gaga and, he's so good, he's so great, he's this, that, and the third. But you only watch one game of his career of the FCS championship game. Don't get me wrong, it's a great game, but you're going gaga goo over that, or you're going on your draft breakdowns and you watch one 6-minute clip and you're just like, oh, He's so great. He's so outstanding. He's like Cam Newton out there. Like, he's no Cam either. He's no Cam. And the people that want to draft him second overall, that's just a way to say that's a quick way to get fired. That's really a quick way to get fired. I just don't.
It would be
like
the Cleveland Browns way of thinking, my friend.
Yes, it would be. Yes, you got. Yes, that would be. And you know, and that would be the way of thinking. But you know, I have to think that Hugh Jackson wouldn't allow that to happen. Per se, I got to think he would just be like, I don't know, we'll go with him at 2. But you never know. You never know, but I don't like him as my number 1. I like Goff number 1. I like Wentz number 2. I like Paxton Lynch number 3. I think Paxton had a lot of good things about him. I mean, he played outstanding in the game against Ole Miss and Laquan Treadwell and Robert Nkemdiche. He played well in that game, but against Temple, against that defense, he struggled mightily. He struggled against that very good Temple defense. So I got him as my 3rd, and then, like I said, it's not even, I can't even, to be honest, Chris, I can't even say it's a drop-off. I can't say it's a drop-off because they're almost like the same tier of quarterbacks. I mean, after that, you got your Connor Cooks, where some people think he could slide to the first round. Miss me on that. Please miss me on Connor Cooks sliding to the first round. I mean, if you got him somehow sliding in the first round, you need to recheck your draft board. I'm just saying. You need to recheck your draft board. I mean, you got him. Dak Prescott just got in trouble with the DUI, which is really just a shame to hear because I think his stock was really starting to take a little small rise. You got him. You got Jacoby Brissett. I'm part of the Jacoby Brissett bandwagon. How you doing? Part of his fan club. I'll take all signatures here. You got Jacoby Brissett. I mean, we got Bad Lee. We got a whole bunch of guys in this quarterback class, and I think everybody's in the same room. I think everybody also forget about Cardale Jones out of Ohio State. He's pretty good too. And I mean, if we want to, let's keep it real. We want to put Carson Wentz up in that first round, and because we want to say he's so great, when we can say anything, we can really say the same thing about Cardale Jones. If you want to be honest with you, we can say the same thing about him. If you want, people want to base off of one game, like, oh, Wentz played so well in the FCS championship game. A lot of people that watch that game probably can't even name 5 teams that played in the FCS. But Carson Wentz is so great. He was, and everybody on draft Twitter is just so mesmerized by his athleticism. But Cardale Jones, you know, I think it's like the same thing. You want to grade Wentz on one game, you do the same thing with Cardale Jones. 3 games. He played in 3 games before this season, all in the playoff situations. Did his thing, and this season, you know, he was all right. He wasn't great, and I just think that's the model of this class. They weren't great. I think 2017's class has something to be left to desire with Deshaun Watson and Brad Kaya out of Miami. I know for people probably like, why are you talking about 2017? We're still in 2016. That's how not solid this class is. 2016. 2017 leaves more to be desired and leaves more to be seen. So I'm not really a big fan of this class at all. Like you said, I wouldn't put none of these guys as my number 1 day starter because we've seen too often in the NFL. Jamarcus Russell, Joey Harrington. I mean, I can go on and on and on of guys that we just quickly throw them into the fire and they flame out. And I just don't want to see that happen to none of these guys that get selected in the first round. Yeah, hopefully if they do get selected in the first round or any team they go to, I hope they go to a team that has a veteran quarterback or at least a stable enough quarterback where they can sit and learn by for a couple of years or some, you know, and then have to step in and play. You know, I hope a quarterback ends up like Brett Hundley. You know, Hundley gets selected by the Packers, you know, and he was the third stringer and Tolzien was the second. And Rodgers the first. Well, you know, Tolzien going to the Colts, and now Hundley's at number 2. But I'm pretty sure Hundley's going to be a much better player if he has to play this year than he would have if he had to play last year in a certain situation. So that's just how I feel about the 2016 class.
Well said. Well said, I must say. You know, exactly, though. I mean, this year's draft, you compare it to last year's draft, and I know that's probably not the thing that we should be doing because, you know, quarterbacks like a Jameis Winston, Mariota, or go back to Andrew Luck, you know, even looking back, Russell Wilson falling in the third. Right. And these guys in last year's draft, they would probably be, Carson Wentz would probably be the fourth quarterback in last year's draft, So, yeah, well said. And, one last topic I want to touch on before I let you go, Jovan, your time is always greatly appreciated. Small school guys, obviously, it's my favorite part of the draft, watching the later rounds. Day one is fun and all, but, days 2 and 3 are, kind of what always gets me excited, is where my eyes are kind of, glued onto the TV screen, seeing where guys like, last year, Rodney Gunter coming out of nowhere, being drafted in the 4th round to the Arizona Cardinals, Jaquiski Tart going in the 2nd round of the San Francisco 49ers out of Samford of the FCS, not Stanford. It's always fun watching these guys and their stock rise, day by day leading up to the NFL draft, and seeing a guy that nobody knows about in like Rodney Gunter, who didn't play any All-Star games, wasn't at the Combine, but there he is going in the 4th round and went on to, I believe, start just about every game for the Arizona Cardinals on their defensive line. Who are a couple small school guys that we may not be hearing too much about right now, but could start picking up traction as we get closer and closer to the start of the NFL draft, April 28th. It's right around the corner.
Well, one guy, especially a quarterback who probably won't hear his name being called on draft day, but I think will definitely garner a lot of interest, especially when we get to the PFA and UDA signings and stuff of that nature. Kyle Washington out of Angelo State. I really like his skill. He's a tall quarterback. I think 6'5". I don't want to butcher the weight. I want to say 230 maybe, but I know he's 6'5". He's tall. He have a great arm. He has a fantastic arm. He played at Angelo State. He has the threat, and he can throw the ball really well, and he can run as well. He can pass and run too really well. So that really works for him. As a tall quarterback, can really sling the ball well down the field. He has nice touch on his passes too, which I saw from his game film over at Angelo State. He really puts nice touch on the ball. I remember talking to him a couple months ago back in December. He said he was trying to work on setting his feet because he throws off his back foot a lot of times. So I seen he had his I seen he was at the College Gridiron Showcase down there in Texas. And, it seems like that went well, and, he's getting ready for his pro day coming up. So I think that's one guy, a quarterback that everybody should keep their eye on. He's going to get a lot of interest because, for all the things that, I had somebody tell me that, he's supposed to switch to a wide receiver. He shouldn't, because he can definitely, I think he can definitely play at the next level as a quarterback. More as a developmental guy, just keep on learning about the game and going forward, because he really has the skills at the next level. I mean, we're starting to see taller quarterbacks succeed at the next level, and I think he's going to be one of those guys that can succeed at the next level. And another guy that I think that can be really successful at the next level, another guy I think, I don't want to go quarterback again, so I'm going to switch off of that. Because I got another quarterback in mind, but I just don't want to just make it all quarterback oriented. People will be like, why are you talking about quarterbacks all the time? Another guy I want to say, and it's somebody that you interviewed, Chris, last week, and that's a Jacksonville cornerback. DB. I just call him DB because literally just call him DB. Josh Sullivan from Jacksonville University. I think he's another guy who probably won't hear he could hear his name called on draft day on day 3, or he could most definitely be a PFA or UDFA signing. This guy, he just, as I told you, Chris, he fits the part of an NFL DB. He just looks like it on the field, and he plays like he plays safe. He plays on the outside, plays slot corner. He plays really well for the Dolphins of Jacksonville in the Pioneer League. He plays really well this season, and I think he's another guy on the defensive side of the ball that can get the job done. I know there's other guys that I could possibly talk about, but I know you definitely got some in mind as well.
Oh yeah, Josh Sullivan, a very versatile defensive back. First of all, a guy that can, he's proven himself not only at Jacksonville, but before he was there, he was at
Central Connecticut State.
There you go, Central Connecticut State. I don't know why Southern Connecticut State was popping into my mind, but yeah, Central Connecticut State of the NEC. He was there for his first 3-4 years, and then spent his last year back at home in Florida at Jacksonville, and was not guaranteed a starting job. You know, he had to work for it, and was able to earn that starting job in training camp, spring ball, and obviously wrapped up his collegiate career with a career year in pass deflections. And as he said in the interview, one thing that he would like to improve on is being able to finish, being able to grab the interceptions, not drop them all the time. But in the end, I mean, your job is to not allow the receiver to catch the football, and obviously he did a very good job of that at Central Connecticut State and Jacksonville. So, I mean, yeah, Josh Sellerin is the guy to look out for. Everybody that follows me on Twitter, they know my love for Miles Killebrew, although he's a smaller school guy. He's the guy that has gotten a lot of traction over the last few months. Obviously, had the combine invite, had the Senior Bowl invite, participated in both of those. So I won't go too much more into detail on Killebrew since, mainstream media kind of caught up to him. He does have a few teammates that I really like as well that quarterback Ammon Olson, cornerback LaShawn Spins, James Cowser, defensive lineman, and then let's see. I'm gonna try aiming for somebody that maybe not too many people know about, a smaller school guy. Going off the top of my head, let me see if I can pull up the list really quick here as we are live on the air.
I think I can. I'll pull one out while you look for yours. I got another guy for everyone. Will Arndt from D3, okay. Western Connecticut State University. This guy, for as much flack, me and Chris, we interview a lot of these guys, that come from the D2 and D3 smaller ranks in the NIA ranks, and a lot of people don't give these guys credit because of the level of competition that they play at. And Arndt, he really stood out to me, and at Western Connecticut State, I had him on the podcast a couple weeks ago. Outstanding talent. I mean, dude participated at the Arizona Regional Combine, did a fantastic. He said he did a great job there, and he just when I had him on the podcast a couple weeks ago, he was just coming back from a CFL tryout, so he's obviously picking up traction. He's a great guy. He's a good quarterback, for his size. He's like another 6'5" quarterback. He's a big quarterback, but he can run, but he can also throw too. But he doesn't depend on the run. He depends on his passing first, and if he has to run, he'll run. And he puts a nice touch on the ball, and I think he can really play at the next level. And he's got a lot of opportunities coming up for himself, coming up too. He's got a lot of great opportunities coming up for him, trying to get more exposure for his game. So that's another guy that I think people should watch out for when we get to the PFA, UDFA signings. Will Arndt from Western Connecticut State, I think, is another guy people should keep their eye out on. D3 guy. And like Chris told me, he was also gaining some buzz at the Fordham Pro Day, which was happening a couple of days ago. So very good to see that he's doing really well.
Absolutely, yeah. Heard a lot of good things about Will Arndt, the NAIA quarterback, as you said. And you know what? While you were saying that and talking about Arndt, and again, yeah, he impressed at the Fordham Pro Day. And although he played at the NAIA level, I mean, he's given this professional thing a shot, and he's taking every opportunity coming his way, whether it's NFL or CFL. That is a guy that obviously just loves playing the game of football and is looking to further his career in any which way that he can. And you know what, we'll end the podcast with this. I'll bring up this guy, and he's a guy that I was able to actually chat with at the Illinois Pro Day. So this isn't a very much of a small school guy, but this is a guy that I feel is still going under the radar. And, speaking of NAIA, he started an NAIA program here in Illinois, and then decided that, I'm gonna give the Fighting Illini a shot. I'm gonna try walking onto their football team. He did that. He had success, and this past season he led all of the Big Ten in tackles, and that's safety Clayton Fedulum, who absolutely killed his pro day. This is a guy that I had to go back and watch some film on. I mean, he had a 40.5-inch vertical. He had a 4.5 flat 40, and really did well in the positional drills there at the University of Illinois down in Champaign. Clayton Fedgelum, he was able to play in the East-West Shrine game. I would say that he probably will be maybe a seventh round pick, a priority free agent, but after this pro day, and I know that you don't want to take too much out of the pro day, you do want to rely more on tape. But I gotta think that crushing his pro day only helped his chances to hearing his name called down there at the pro day. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals sure seem to have been showing lots of interest in him. Talked to him in between workouts, and then following right after the workout, they had a short conversation with him as well. The Chicago Bears had a short exchange with him as well. So Clayton Fedgelum, I mean, he's a guy that I don't think is getting the deserved attention just yet, but I think he has a good chance of going in the later rounds after crushing his pro day. And like I said, that'll probably wrap things up for tonight. Jovan, as always, I appreciate you taking some time to chat it up, talk some football here on the CS Podcast, NFL free agency, talk a little bit about the NFL draft as well. Before I let you go, please let us know where we could check out your work at.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can check out my work over at RealGM.com. Pretty much writing some football on the football vertical of the site. Writing a lot of football analysis stories. Last story I wrote was the NFL top 10 free agents, and hopefully this week I'll be diving into grading some of the free agent deals. I'm really looking and excited to get into that and grading some of those free agent deals that me and Chris talked about, and other ones that we couldn't get to, but we definitely probably would talked about. I'm going to give my shot at grading those deals, but definitely check my work over there. RealGM.com and TotalSportsLive.com. You can check my work out over there. I did a bang-up job, this past week's free agency. My guys over there really picked up and did their thing over there. Matt, Alex, Kurt, they all did their thing this week when it comes to free agency. So shout out to those guys, for keeping the site running strong. Like I said, check out my work on TotalSportsLive.com, RealGM, and RealGM.com. That's two places where you can check it out.
Hey, Jovan, I appreciate it. As always, it was a good time chopping it up here tonight. And like I said, we'll probably be doing it again in just a few days, in just a couple of weeks. There's a lot more to get to, not only with the NFL draft, but obviously these free agent deals that are still going on. So, lots going on in the football world. There is no off season in the NFL. Jovan, thank you very much, and thanks to everybody for tuning in tonight. The CS Podcast presented by the NUC NFL Draft Bible. Again, follow Jovan on Twitter at Jovan10. Check out his work over at RealGM. Check it out, TotalSportsLive.com. You guys can give me a follow on Twitter at Chris Shanafelt. And that'll wrap up today's show. We're back at it with the prospect interviews beginning tomorrow with Colorado State Pueblo Division II wide receiver Kieran Duncan, who had a big regional combine performance down in Arizona a few weeks ago. So we'll be back at it again tomorrow with the prospect interviews. Again, special thanks to Jovan Alford at Jovan10 on Twitter for joining the show tonight to talk NFL free agency and NFL draft. And until next time, everybody, thanks for tuning in and have a great night.